This is Dominic Dajakovic, and I want you to feast your eyes and ears on Aaron and Tom on the Hot Tag Hooligans Wrestling Podcast Show.
My money, like I hit the lotto. Prayers for my brother, feel like the devil got him. I'm on the road so much, I'm thinking about my kids, thinking about my mama, wondering how she is. I'm working 2 jobs, hey, I'm just trying to make it. I lost my best friend, hey, rest in peace, Nathan. They killed my brother too, don't know my daddy, ooh. My sister going to jail, feel like I'm going to hell. Yeah, Lord, hear me, I just need some motivation. And I got tired of all these rumors and they hate. I feel my best when I'm worry-free. Mama, don't you worry, ain't nobody hurting me. Yeah, Lord, hear me, I just need some motivation.
Welcome everybody to the Hot Tag Hooligans Wrestling Podcast Show. I'm Aaron, that's Tom. Tonight, a very special guest. He's an ECW original. It's the one and only Mr. Chili Willy. How's it going?
Yo, how you doing? Thank you guys for having me, man, on Hot Tag Hooligans, you know?
Absolutely. So let's start with your career in ECW. And, I'm always honest with everyone. This is actually our second take of this due to, us losing some signal and stuff like that. But we're going to start your career right here in ECW because that is the main focus point of your career to a lot of people who do know you here in the States. So when you began your career, WWE and WCW were both at an all-time high. And ECW was kind of fading a little bit there in the 2000s. But let's talk about your career and how you actually got started there.
Yeah, like we said earlier, I tried out for WCW in '96. Didn't have the money. Came back home, and I went to my high school, to see a wrestling show, and I linked up with C.W. Anderson's cousin, and from there, CW started training me, and it was 2 other guys, one guy named Laz, and he did some stuff with TNA. And so when CW started to go to ECW, then another trainer came in. His name was Gary Simone. And so I credit, CW Anderson, Gary Simone, and his cousin, Dan Wright, who trained me and got me started. And so it was CW and Steve Carino who invited me up to ECW. I didn't know what ECW was, didn't get it because I was in the South, and so you had to have a special channel for that. But didn't know who the the wrestlers were and everything. But I was game, I was ready to. I knew that it was a big promotion. I just didn't know how big it was. I knew it wasn't as big as WWF or WCW. But I knew it was a big promotion. And so I got my start there. And I was on the ring crew, the first night I did a show, I did a wrestling match with a guy named Julio De Niro. And from there, Tommy said, hey, if you want a job, you can be on the ring crew. Some of the guys wanted to get off the ring crew, like Angel, DeVito, and all those guys. And so I got on the ring crew, and I wrestled. And that's how I got into ECW.
You mentioned it, and for myself, I didn't learn about ECW until probably about a little bit into 1996, and it was just through reading magazines. Because you're right, they weren't a well-known promotion unless you were in the Northeast. And I was lucky enough to finally find them. It was at 2 a.m. in the morning. I know my parents hated me for it, but I would stick the tape in VCR, the VCR tape, and I would hit record. And they would have a show that would come on like Fox Sports New York. And I would be able to watch their 1-hour programming at the time. So when you look at that and you look at all the other companies that are around, was there something about ECW that really intrigued you at that time? Because at that time, when you jumped with them, man, they were hot and heavy, and they were known as that renegade bunch that, hard hitting action. Or were you just looking at it as, here's my foot into the door?
Both. I was looking at this is my foot in the door because I was green dude, whatever. And I was just excited to be in a company. But really what got me was when I started, when I heard that they were doing pay-per-views and they were already on television. Like I said, we couldn't get ECW. But then the talk was TNN at the time. And so I was really excited. I was like, "Whoa, they're gonna be on TNN," and we could get that channel, I mean. So I was like, my family could see it, and so that really inspired me also. And then just being around those wrestlers, that talent, you know what I mean? That really inspired me. I didn't know a lot of the names at that time. I learned, the names and things like that. But, Dusty Rhodes would come in periodically and I would see him and I was like, oh snap, that's Dusty Rhodes, because I grew up, yo, that's Dusty Rhodes. I was like, whoa, you know what I mean? So I would see him come through, and everything. And so I knew it was something big. I just didn't know how big it was, but I was just happy to be there. Ring crew didn't matter to me. And, we talked about this before we came on. They didn't treat guys like me like jobbers. You know what I mean? Like you would see WCW or WWF at the time. We were talent, you know what I mean? Because right off the bat, I was working names like Guido, you know what I mean? Billy Wild, all those guys were already Johnny Swinger. Those guys were already names, and so sometimes I would go over, and then sometimes I wouldn't. So it just depends on how Paul and how Tommy saw it, and I was like, hey, I was happy, you know what I mean? My pace stayed the same. It didn't go up either way if I won or lost. So. But the thing was, the experience that I got, because all those guys, they walked me through a lot of things, you know what I mean?
You talk about some of the experiences with Paulie being there. What kind of experiences did you have learning from him, even if it's simple as in some of the matches that you've had?
Right off the bat, the promos. I sucked at promo. I kind of still do suck at promo, but he was very good at directing how he wanted you to sound, look, or whatever. I don't know if things were really written out, like they were in WWE when I went to WWE developmental, but I know that he could get, before you do your promo, he's right there at the camera and he's telling you, okay, you need to do it this way. You know what I mean? Maybe bullet points, I guess you would say. And so, and just his inspiration. Now, he'll lie to you. He'll lie to you, but you would know he's lying to you. He was like a cult master, you know what I mean? You just follow this dude to the ends of the earth. Everyone in ECW would. No matter what they say, no matter what, at that time, everyone would follow Paul Heyman to the hell, you know what I mean? Because that's just how motivating he was to you, and how he would boost your confidence, whether he was bullcrapping you or not, he was just a great motivational type of person, still is.
Now, when you look at your character, Chilly Willy, who actually came up with the name Chilly Willy, everyone's favorite homeboy? And if I'm not mistaken, no matter what city you were in, that's what, is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I came up with the name Chilly Willy when I was training. Actually, I wanted to be Cyrus the Virus, but then when CW started getting involved with ECW, and I started knowing some of the characters, I found out that they already had Cyrus there. Don, what's his name?
Don Callis.
What's his last name? Yes. So I said, I can't go with Cyrus. So it was, at that time, my ex-girlfriend, her brother-in-law came up with the name Chill Will. We were just talking. He was like, what's up, Chill Will, whatever. And I just added the Chilly Willy on it. But I was originally called the Ghetto Superstar in the Indies. So I would come out to the music, Ghetto Superstar, whatever. But then when I went to ECW, it was just Chilly Willy. And then they asked me my stats. They said, where you from? And I said, I want to be from right here in Richmond, Norfolk, Virginia. And then it kind of just went from there. And then someone said, everyone's favorite homeboy, because I said, okay, everywhere I go, how about everywhere I go, I want to just be from that city, you know what I mean? And I don't know who exactly came up with everyone's favorite homeboy, but I know that I said, well, why don't we just say that I'm from because didn't nobody know who I was, like I said, you know what I mean? And so I would do a lot of the curtain jerk, meaning coming out first, setting the tempo for the whole show. And so I was a baby face, so I wanted to kind of give some type of title to that name, you know what I mean? Chili Willy. So that's how it came out.
You mentioned being a curtain jerker, but you rose up pretty fast, teaming with the Sandman and Balls Mahoney. Talk to us a little bit about wrestling with those ECW legends.
That, I have to attribute that to, a little bit of my wrestling. I don't like to, shoot my shit, but I was okay in wrestling. You know what I mean? The memory of wrestling I had a hard time with. But I think it was my look also. You know what I mean? I always wanted to look like a wrestler. I always wanted to go out in tights and shorts because Ric Flair is my favorite. And so I wanted to emulate that with having my knee pads below my knee, right? And so I said, I want to be a wrestler that can show my body. I'm not a Bobby Lashley, but I want to be able to show that. So I think where in ECW, a lot of guys will wear either singlets or T-shirts and things like that. I think Paul and Tommy saw that, okay, I would come out there in tights, and I was pretty well jacked, I was okay. And so they just kind of put me in there. They started putting me in with guys like that, and then I would have matches with guys like Rhino and things like that. So I was on a fast track. Yes, I was. I believe that if the company would have stayed, together, I would have had much more success. And getting back to the name Chili Willy, even when I went to WWE and I had a dark match, they let me use that name because normally when you do a dark match or anything like that, you got to use your first name, your real name. They don't let you go out in your gimmick name that you come from another company. And so I kept that gimmick. And then they say, where you from? And, I said, I'm from Richmond, Virginia. And when I went out to Richmond, Virginia, the crowd would, you know what I mean? And so everywhere I went and I did a dark match, they let me keep that. So that was pretty cool, I thought, because Vince, he doesn't let you keep that name, your gimmick name like that. But yeah, that was really interesting that they put me with guys like Sandman, Balls, New Jack would come in. I didn't really tag with them like Sandman or New Jack, but they would make ring interest for me, like a save the day type thing. You know what I mean? So I thought that was pretty cool.
Probably a good thing you didn't tag with New Jack that much.
Woo! Who you telling? When I saw what he did, I was like, I don't want my head gashed in, dog. No, I don't want to be on the receiving end of none of that. It was bad enough when I was with Balls and I took chair shots from the Baldies. I was like, whoa, this is. You know what I mean? But, I was game for anything. I was just like, I don't know if I'm game for them staples or them forks or anything like that,
I met New Jack one time. I asked him if he would call my answering machine just to leave me a message just for fun. He said, sure. And he stole my hamburger. I swear. He stole my hamburger, awesome. Ate the hamburger right in front of me and called while he ate my hamburger. I had to go buy a new
he was awesome. He took care of me also. Yeah, he took care of me also a couple of times, man. New Jack was awesome, All those guys, Hack, with Sandman, they would always give me good, criticism. Not well, how you say it?
Constructive.
Yes, there you go. And so they would tell me, you need more confidence when you go out there. You need to do this, you need to do that, And so that's one of the things I learned from them. They really know they even though they don't do like your technical wrestling, but they know that stuff. New Jack knows it. Balls knows it. Sandman knows. They know how to get down if they really need to get down. You know what I mean? It's just not their gimmick allowed them just to do, the hardcore stuff, but they could do technical wrestling then too,
Now you talk about them being there for you and giving you the constructive criticism. Do you feel like being there, and do you feel like the reason that it held on as long as it did is because it was like a pretty big family that really wanted it to succeed? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, at the time, that was the only reason. You know what I mean? It was like, I was at the tail end of it. And when Paul was, making deals with WWF or WWE, and payment wasn't coming out to those top guys, guys like me were making money because we were getting paid on the table, not on the table, we just get paid cash. And so, but the morale was low inside the locker room. People didn't know it. But when we came out, it was just like, we just kept our dirty business in the locker room. You know what I mean? But people were hot, man. There were some really hot individuals, you know what I mean? But for me, guys that was on a Rico, we were like, okay. It's like your older brother or older sister, they're mad, at mom and dad or whatever, and you're just like trying to stay away from everything so you don't get a spanking too. So we would just put up the ring, and go about our day, and but if you were an indie wrestler and you came in at that time looking for a job at ECW, because morale was so low and people were so mad, people, our wrestling buddies, our brothers and sisters thought that, why are you here? You know what I mean? You don't know the story. You're trying to get a job. We're already not getting paid. And so what they would do is Fonzie would have me, Tom Marquez, get in the ring with guys that come in to try out. And it was a shoot match. We would just beat the brakes off people. You know what I mean? Just to really, I'm not gonna say please them or whatever, but it was just like you just took the crap because people are just so mad at not getting paid, so they want to see someone get their ass whooped. So we would go in there, we would blow people up, make them do drills and things like that, and then they tell them, get out the ring. You know what I mean? And we already had a job, so we're just looking at them, you know what I mean? And that's how it was, though. It was tough, it was tough, but we kept it together, you know what I mean?
In 2000, in 2000, after 9/11, you decided to walk away from professional wrestling. And this is something I truly admire you for, because there was a couple other pro athletes that did the exact same thing. And I always consider you all as pro athletes. And you decided to join the armed forces. And during that time, you received the Purple Heart. Talk to us a little bit what made you decide to joining the armed forces.
ECW closing, pretty much. Really, ECW closing. If ECW, like I said, had not closed, and at I think the last match or the last show they were having, Tommy said, you guys don't have to go. I think it was somewhere in the South or something like that. I'm not sure. And so I sat at home and I saw the writing on the wall. But then 9/11, was already in the making and already, had already transpired, whatever. And I was like, maybe this is my chance to. I needed a job. I didn't really want to work at 9 to 5 because I was already used to working at, doing wrestling. But I wanted to do something more exciting. Kind of, I didn't want to go to war. I'm not gonna lie to you. I did not want to go to war. I didn't know what I was thinking. But when you go into the military, you're going to war, right? And so I was like, damn, I really don't want to go to war. And then when I went in, I said, okay, well, if I do go to war, I might as well train to be a fighter. So I'll just do 11 Bravo, be an infantryman. And so I just signed up and I went in. And, thank God I'm here. Got a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star. So, I was just like lucky to be alive and, did the things that we had to do. And it was, I would not want to do it again. Being honest with you, I would fight for my country. If shit hit America, I would go back to America and fight. But I'm not going to be in America and go fight overseas to no other country. That's just, I don't see what it does. It's not one of those things where you gloat over. You know what I mean? Some people, I had a lot of guys gloating before we went to Iraq. Maybe because they were young, they didn't understand. But when we got there, they were ready to come home. They were ready to go to the 5th floor in the hospital. and everyone know what the 5th floor is. So, you know, it's not one of those things where you just say, hey, you know, I want to go, you know. No, it's not a game, you know, because you don't come back. Some people don't come back. You know, some people don't come back, and then some people come back and they're all jacked up. You know what I mean? And when I got hit, you know, with the mortar round and everything, I was like, yo, I come that close, you know, to not being here. You know, a couple more inches, I would have been out. You know what I mean? And so, you know, the firefights that we had, it's not a thing where you know, when you hear bullets coming past you, it's zoom, 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 zoom. You know, it's a whole different game. It's a whole different game, bro. So, yeah, but, you know, I'm glad everything transpired the way it did. And so, yeah, I just needed the job at the time, though.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. And, you know, I've got 3 friends who have all been in the military and have gone overseas. And I know a part of them's a gone, you know,
yes,
that they went through, you know, they're just not really the same person in a way. And I truly have so much admiration for you. And thank you. I just want to tell you, thank you so much for your service. Definitely.
Thank you guys. Yeah.
I mean, we may have not have got you wrestling as long as some of us wanted you to wrestle, but
you're right.
Like you're saying, I don't know I could make that sacrifice. So thank you so much for that, 100%. But on the flip side of that, you're still giving back to the world of professional wrestling because you are down in the Philippines and you're helping down there, and you're also involved in the A&C podcast. Talk to us a little bit about that and how you got with that.
Well, I started doing a little podcast here once the pandemic hit and everything. But prior to that, I was training some wrestlers here in the Philippines. And then, like I said, the pandemic hit, so I just decided to come up, you know, doing a podcast or something. And so one of my young friends, he just started the business. He's actually a cancer survivor. His name is Andrew Campbell. He is really the host of it because he came to me. He said, because I don't really know a lot about the social media stuff, you know what I mean? And the technology. I just got on the line and I said, I just do a podcast here. And so he saw it. He was like, Chili, let me help you and we could do a podcast. And I said, okay. And we started it, and maybe 2 or 3 months ago, about three months ago. And so it's going pretty good. And our biggest star that we had last weekend was Mick Foley. He was on. And he was on for a young kid named Sam Mitchell who has autism. And so I didn't know that Mick Foley's son has autism. And so that was the connection. And so, you know, and it's going pretty good. You know, we're trying.
We've had Sam on the show here as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We know Sam pretty well. Yeah.
Nice.
And when that opportunity was presented to us to have Sam on, of course, we jumped on that as well because the things that he's able to do with his podcast are phenomenal. Yes. And that's the one thing about the podcast community that we've had to learn, because we're only 8 months into ours as well.
Okay.
We feed off of other podcasts. We're not afraid to ask for help if we need help. And it's become one really tight community, and it's really well respected community.
Yes. Well, I thank you guys really for having me on, and I hope we can, you know, since now we know each other, we can, you know, connect and everything, and I share your things.
Willy wants to come on the show. I'm going to put Chili Willy on the show.
Yeah.
Definitely, you know.
Well, tell everyone where they can find you on social media before we let you go.
Facebook at William Chili Willy Jones. At Twitter, and Twitter I really don't even use. I would tweet something and no one responds. It's just I just put it out there. You know that way. So anyway, I'm on that. I think it's Chili Willy or William Jones. Anyway, you can find me Chili Willy, Willy Jones, William Jones. It's a connection and all that. Instagram is Chili Willy 2469 with a $. And then on ANC podcast, Chili Willy podcast, I do the Chili Willy podcast. I feature really my students here in the Philippines, and then some of the other promotions here in the Philippines. And so until I run out of those, I don't know where Chili Willy podcast is going to go next. So hoping bare knuckle fighting and all that. I really want to get into that. Get some of those guys, on the show and everything, because that's rising. That's a rising sport. If you guys haven't heard about it, but it is rising. Bare knuckle championship fighting. And so, yeah, that's where you can find me at.
Awesome. Well, Chili, thanks so much for actually joining us tonight. Before we let you go, also shout out to Andrew Campbell as well.
Thank you.
Make sure you guys check out Chili and Andrew's podcast. And I wanted to make mention that we did do our giveaway, and Darla Cosby is going to be the winner of my book, Independent Road to Wrestler's Journey.
Nice. Congratulations.
Darla, that'll be shipped out on Wednesday. Mail's kind of backed up right now for me. So Wednesday, I'll get that out to you all. Thank you, everyone, so much for actually joining us tonight. Greatly appreciate it. Make sure y'all are staying safe, and we will see y'all down the road.